Happy Christmas Eve, everyone. Beard, Fairy, good evening. Yes, I found some dark Christmas stories. So, we're gonna listen to the dark side of Christmas. So if y'all could remember to please hit the thumbs up when you enter the forest, that would be great. Good evening, Wander. Happy Merry Christmas Eve. I hope everyone has their presents wrapped and cookies baked for Santa. Carrots out for the reindeer. And you know, the elves would like something packed in a bowl or twisted in a joint. But, you know, that's the elves. So we're going to see if anyone else shows up. We're going to wait just a little bit longer before we start the stories. Or should we just start and they'll come in? There's a bunch of them. Oh yes, the elves will also take edibles. This is true, Beard. Alright, well, I think we're just gonna start. Maybe we'll... Hello, Vanilla. How are you? Happy Christmas Eve. We're waiting for Mason. Who the hell is Mason? I don't know who Mason is. Maven. We're waiting for Maven. We can't start without her. Oh, yes. Thank you, Fairy, for letting people know that isn't a troll account. Oh, you dyed your... What color did you dye your hair? Oh, no. It didn't turn orange, did it? Oh, no. What color were you going for? Oh, you just hit... Oh, yuck. Bad fruit is the worst fruit ever. Oh, that sucks. You did orange one time, never again? So you did black all around and blue just in the front. Well, I kind of read you did black all around. And the blue didn't stick. Oh. Well, so, did you dye the blue part black? Because you might have to bleach the part that you want blue. Well, I don't know if Maven is just lurking. Beard, go find Maven. Because we can't start without her. You're just leaving it the way it is. Too mad. I understand that. That's why I don't really do my own hair. I go to a hairstylist and have them do it. Because I have very dark hair. So it requires bleach and all type of stuff. And I tried dyeing my hair pink. And even with bleach, I couldn't get the pink to be the pink that I wanted. So I got frustrated with it and I just gave up and I went back to my normal hair color. Yeah, I thought she would be at work by now, too. Well, she might be lurking and not being able to type. So we're just gonna start. And she'll come in. Like I said, there's a few stories, so it's not just one. So let's get started, shall we?
Saint Nicholas and the Butchered Children. Turkey. Since Saint Nicholas is at the heart of many of these tales and legends, we'll begin our journey down the dark paths of Christmas terrors with him. Saint Nicholas, or Saint Nick, is a handy alternate name for Santa Claus, but there really was a Saint Nicholas who lived in Asia Minor, in what is now Turkey, from about 270 CE until his death on December 6, 343. December 6 is still his feast day. In his own time, he was Nicholas of Bari, a Greek bishop in an age when the Roman Empire was not officially Christian, or even close to having a majority of Christians in its population. Not too much is known about his actual biography, but quite a few legends sprung up about him during and after his life. Many of these stories tell about his generosity and his secretly giving gifts to people or money to those in need. He was quite possibly the first secret Santa. One such story says that he prevented 3 girls from being forced into prostitution by dropping sacks of gold through their window each night for 3 nights, which allowed their father enough money to pay dowries for them. The father discovered him on the 3rd night, but Nicholas told him not to tell anyone about this generosity. Nicholas was also said to have performed miracles, such as calming a stormy sea while he was sailing to the Holy Land and driving out demons. But the most famous legend about him concerns the fate of 3 children and a very evil butcher. The story goes that these 3 kids were out in the fields and lost track of time. They came to a town and to a butcher's shop, which was lighted inside. They were tired and hungry, and now they were lost, so they knocked on the door. The butcher answered, and they asked him if they could have some food and a place to sleep for the night. He was only too happy to welcome them in, but he had no intention of giving them a warm welcome. Taking out a sharp knife, he killed and butchered each of them, dismembering them and placing the body parts in a barrel with brine for curing. He intended to sell the pieces as ham to unwary customers when the curing was finished. It brings to mind the story of Sweeney Todd. A long time went by, some accounts say as much as 7 years. But Nicholas learned of the crime and went to the butcher. He commanded that this evil man open up his salting barrel, and the butcher could do nothing but comply. Once open, Nicholas made the sign of the cross over it and commanded the children to rise. The 3 dismembered bodies were miraculously repaired, and the children brought back to life. No word on what happened to the butcher, but later legends say that he was forced to work with St. Nicholas ever after, as penance for his sins. We'll meet some of his incarnations in this book. This weird legend seems to be a fairly late addition to the stories about Nicholas, probably originating in the Middle Ages, but from it, some began to see Nicholas as a patron saint of children. This, combined with his reputation for gift-giving, dovetailed nicely with winter traditions of presents and miracles, such that Nicholas now has pride of place as a holiday gift giver in many European countries on December 6th, even if he is accompanied by that miserable old Krampus, which is who we're meeting next, incidentally. Krampus.
Wow. So I told you, these aren't your normal stories that you hear of Christmas. I hope you enjoy.
Bavaria, Austria, Slovenia, Croatia, and northern Italy.
Let me start
Krampus.
over.
Bavaria, Austria, Slovenia, Croatia, and northern Italy. Krampus is, of course, the granddaddy of all European winter holiday monsters. A fearsome, furry demon with a terrible attitude that can't wait to get out in the snow and cause mischief. He's certainly not the oldest beastie haunting the holidays, but these days, he's definitely the most famous. So it's natural to begin our ghoulish gallery with him. Krampus accompanies St. Nicholas and has his very own night, the eve of St. Nicholas Day. In fact, the night of December 5th. Krampusnacht is the time when he is most active and when children have the most to fear. He is often depicted as a horned, satyr-like, goat-footed demon carrying a large basket on his back, into which he will toss naughty children to drag them off to terrible tortures. He usually drags chains and carries a root, a bundle of birch branches that he uses to swat misbehaving children. If that's all they get from him, they should count themselves lucky. His name might come from the old Bavarian Krampen, meaning dead, or the German Kramp, meaning claw. Either word seems like a good etymology for him. He has long been associated with St. Nicholas, and tales of Krampus and his punishments might date back as early as the 7th century, though it seems that the earliest written records of this frightening figure date to the end of the 16th or the early 17th century. It's possible that fears of a menacing alpine winter visitor predated Christianity, and that the legends and festivals were intertwined with Christian belief when the church realized that they couldn't be eliminated entirely. So this fearsome night creature was given a holy role within the church to punish sinners, especially children. The Nazis banned Krampus celebrations, but the people were having none of it. And as soon as those losers were dispatched, Krampus came right back, bigger than ever. Today, of course, there are Krampus celebrations all across the Alps and beyond, even in the United States. They start in early December and extend into January, no longer limited to one night, which is a great thing. There is no shortage of people willing to dress up as Krampuses, Krampi, and take part in parades and other big holiday get-togethers, posing for pictures, scaring kids, swatting tourists with fake birch switches, and having all sorts of fun. Dozens of people might show up dressed in their Krampus costumes, ready for a ghoulish party. Krampus is an institution now and a big business, though in the villages and more remote areas of the Alps, celebrations tend to be smaller and more traditional, with just one costume demon accompanying the beloved saint as they make the rounds from house to house, checking in on the behavior of the local children. Variations on Krampus are many, and we'll look at some of them in the following pages. They are united by the idea of a menacing monster that threatens naughty children with torture and worse, and that often accompanies St. Nicholas, or sometimes other holy men. The blend of the blessings and the curses is a common theme, with the idea being that those who have been good will get what they deserve, as will those who haven't. In recent years, Krampus has become something of a holiday classic, starring in horror movies, music videos, and more. This obscure figure from the frozen mountains of Europe has taken the world by storm.
So I don't necessarily know if these are, say, stories, or if they're just introducing different people, like, you know, the Christmas lore in different times and different places in the world. People of Christmas. That's what I think, maybe. On to the next one.
Frau Perchta, Austria and Bavaria. Frau Perchta, or simply Perchta, is a bit of a mystery. Some suggest that she was once a goddess in pagan Germanic times, one that the people viewed favorably. She might be a version or variation of any number of other Germanic goddesses whose legend spread throughout Germany and beyond in the times before Christianity. Or she might have been seen as a guardian spirit of some kind. She is first mentioned, disapprovingly, around the year 1200, and might have been a figure that was still venerated or placated in some ways. But, as often happened, the church was not thrilled with the idea of reverence of a rival spirit, much less a god, and probably set about blackening her name until such time as she was taken down a peg or two and made into a fearsome winter witch, accompanied by demons and other creatures of the darkness.
Oh, Fairy, have a wonderful Christmas Eve with your grandson. I wish you the most merriest Christmas morning tomorrow. Okay, back to the story. Or whatever we're calling this.
And she also had a charming nickname, the Belly Slitter. A few centuries later, we find the words Perchten and Perchtenlaufen referring to ceremonies or processions in the Tyrol area of Austria that featured some of the demons and ghosts what we've come to associate with these holiday time monster mashes at these holidays. In legends, they were demons and ghosts that roamed the night skies, and a demon named Percht seems to have become a Krampus-like figure. Did Perchta give her name to these celebrations? Quite possibly. The twists and tangles of the history of these mysterious beings are confusing and will probably never be unraveled. But at some point, Frau Perchta became another of those creatures that haunts the night. She came to resemble the classic stereotype of an old crone or witch, dressed in rags, holding a cane, old and wrinkly, but also sometimes having a beaked nose made out of iron, and she would often carry a knife or other dangerous weapon with her. She loved spinning, which might give her an association with the old Germanic Norse goddess Frigg, and keeping things tidy. According to legend, wool or flax had to be spun and ready to weave by January 6th. And for those who didn't have it ready, there would be some nasty surprises in store. She might visit the house and set fire to any fiber not yet spun. Worse, the householders had better have tidied up and left out a bowl of porridge for her. But if someone scoffs at this or forgets the oatmeal, old Frau Perchta will fly into a rage, burst into the bedroom, disembowel the offender, and fill their empty abdominal cavity with straw and rocks. Happy New Year. When she's not busy ripping guts out of lazy housekeepers, she is sometimes said to ride with the Wild Hunt, accompanied by the Perchten. More on them later, on page 33. The sounds of wind and thunder are their noise. Not anything as mundane as the natural elements. While Krampus focuses his evil on the early part of December, Frau Perchta prefers the Thursdays before Christmas and the whole of early January, which is one way to tell them apart. Well, that and the whole disemboweling thing. But maybe Krampus is into that too. Who knows?
Hi, Neil. Welcome. We're listening to the Scary Christmas lore. And we're learning about Christmas all around the world at different time periods in history, and some of it's kind of weird, some of it doesn't make any sense. Like, I don't understand what this wicked fairy is about. But supposedly there's more later to come. It certainly sounds scary. Yeah, a little. Yeah, well, you know, history is a little scary, Neil. The way that it's been reinterpreted over the years to make it more, shall we say, Disney-ish. And so, since Disney-ish is also something that, you know, you look into that stuff, and that has a dark, scary meanings behind it. So far, my holidays have been monster-free. I think it's because we're talking about the monsters, so they're staying away. Alright, so we're going on to the next one.
Frau Gode, Germany. Frau Gode is especially well known in south-central Germany. In some ways, she is similar to Frau Perchta. There are many regional variations on the theme of a night witch that brings trouble and death. She is known to haunt the towns and villages of the area during the 12 days of Christmas, along with a pack of ghostly hounds. Legends say that she is doomed to wander with them forever because once, as a mortal, she made the foolish wish that she could hunt forever. She got that wish. For much of the year, she rides with the wild hunt, and some tales even say that she leads it. During the Christmas holidays, Frau Gode wanders about at night looking for homes with open doors and windows. If she finds one, she will send one of her dogs inside, where it will make itself at home. As long as the residents do not disturb it, nothing much will come of this. But if they do bother it, or try to drive it out, disaster will strike. The dog might grow angry and attack the homeowner, even tearing them apart. And if the homeowner tries to kill it, the best that they will accomplish is to see it transform into a rock that will stay in that form until midnight each night. Then, it will become a dog again, and likely a very angry one. It will howl at those who tried to kill it, and each of these howls is a curse that will affect the unfortunate villager. The curses can be anything from poor health to accidents, bad luck, or even death. Once Frau Gode blesses you with one of her hounds, you're stuck with it. And if the dog curses you, only Frau Gode can remove the curse.
Oh, thank you so much, Neil. Have a very Merry Christmas. And thank you so much for stopping by. Stay safe, and hopefully I'll see you before the new year. But if I don't, have a very blessed new year. Thanks for coming.
But she will only do so once a year, on Christmas Eve. So if you are suffering from any kind of affliction, you'd better be ready on that night and hope that she hears you and agrees to help you. Some say that she only helps because she was once worshipped in ancient times and desires to take people's attention away from their Christian faith by only offering her aid on that night. But whatever her motives, it's best to make sure that your doors and windows are securely shut each night during the Christmas season, so that you won't be hit with a dog's curse and have to beg for relief the following year. Frau Gode might have been a goddess. Some say that she was the wife of the god Odin or Woden. One of her other names is Frau Wode or Mrs. Woden. Some go even farther and speculate that she is merely Woden in disguise. Another related Frau is Herk, who, like Gode, is usually seen in the company of hounds, and like Perchta, is concerned that everyone finishes their spinning on time, or else there will be consequences. As you can see, these legends overlap and often are simply variations on each other, with similar themes and always the warning to watch yourself and behave during the holiday season. The Night Folk.
So, Maven, it's not like really one whole story. It's more or less introducing us to different characters in the Christmas lore. And it's from all over the world and all different time periods in history. And it's not really giving you the full information of the people, just introducing you to them. So, back to the Night Folk.
Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. At the intersection of Germany, Austria, and Switzerland, unfortunate people could sometimes catch a glimpse in wintertime of a mysterious and macabre procession, the Night Folk. also sometimes known as the night throng, or, even more charmingly, the death folk, or death throng. Unlike the wild hunt, see page 53, this group does not fly about chaotically in the sky or engage in overt violence. They are a solemn procession of lost souls and perhaps other beings from beyond the veil. They most often wear all black, such as robes and shrouds, if they are seen at all. Sometimes, one merely hears them, most often with music. Indeed, the night folk often appear with haunting music playing, melodies that can be sweet and strange enough to entice mortals to follow after them. In this, the night folk are similar to the fairies of Ireland and Britain, who would sometimes lure mortals into their circles or their realm with enchanting music. Such mortals were usually never seen again. The night folk might even offer to teach new songs and new instrument skills to the unwary, but it's always best to say no. It was said that in the alpine areas, at the holidays especially, one needed to be on the lookout for the night folk. It was foolish to try to block their ghostly march, and if they processed toward a house or some other building, one always needed to open the doors on both sides to let them pass through. If not, disaster and ruin might befall the house or its owners. If the night folk were left alone, they would often leave those around them alone in turn, but not always. In some regions, the night folk could be relatively harmless, a sad procession of beings doomed forever to wander the land, denied eternal peace. But in some areas, especially in Switzerland, they could be outright malevolent if crossed. Here, the night folk often processed without music, or, at least, it was less enticing, and could herald plagues and disasters. One legend told of a man who encountered the procession after hearing the sound of a bowed instrument. He happened to catch sight of Death playing a violin and leading a long crowd of the death folk. The man saw many of his neighbors in the procession who were still alive. At the end, he saw himself. And so the prophecy came true, as one by one, each of those neighbors died of a plague, and he was the last to die of it. Well, that would ruin the holiday celebrations, wouldn't it? It was best never to gaze upon them if one could help it, for one would already know they were coming by their sound, which could be anything from pleasant to horrible, from singing to drumming to strange drones to the sound of rattling bones. Their presence often predicted the year to come. Beautiful music meant that it would be a good year, while a cacophony meant that it would not. But really, most people lived in the hope that they would never hear the night folk at all. Terst, Switzerland. There are many fearsome spirits that travel in the wilds of the winter darkness. In Switzerland, there's a hunter who rides in the nights before and after Christmas, and who goes by the name Terst. As a kind of one-being wild hunt, see page 53, he's especially known and feared in the area around Lucerne and the nearby Mount Pilatus, but he also appears in other places from time to time. Terst carries a hunting horn, which he blows to announce his arrival. He has a pack of hunting hounds, each of whom only has 3 legs, and these creatures are led by a dog with only one eye in the middle of its forehead. A terrifying sight indeed. In some legends, this leader is a strange and bizarre mixture of a dog and a pig. There are some tales that say Terst himself can transform into a dog for his hunt, and that he will lead his dogs across the sky in this form. Like the night folk, one must stay out of his way if he and his pack are on the move, for to impede his progress would be to invite terrible luck. Those who are foolish enough to bar his path, intentionally or otherwise, or try to keep him from hunting, will risk being transformed into one of his dogs and joining his ghostly hunt forever. It's said that even cows and livestock will scramble out of the way if they see Thirst coming. And if they are in any way touched by the hunting dogs, they will either go crazy or stop giving milk forever. So, farmers and herders must make sure to leave their barns open if Thirst's pack is on the way. Thirst's hunting horn can summon any number of other strange creatures to join him on the hunt. And he is also said to be the master of the goblins who live in the Santenberg mountain near Lucerne. Strangely enough, these creatures and Thirst are believed to guard a unicorn that lives in the mountain, which seems like a strange task for an evil group of spirits, but so be it. Thirst and his fearsome pack are likely a localized version of the Wild Hunt. See page 53. One can also think of him as a personification of the fierce winter storms and the gales that can blow.
You heard that too, Beard, didn't you? Goblins and unicorns all on the same mountain. Unbelievable.
Through the Alps. His hunt is accompanied by strong, howling winds and sometimes snow. The people are right to fear him. To try to stave off some of his ferocity, villagers would put up Wetterkrauts, or weather crosses, which were said to repel him, or at least lessen his effect, and perhaps calm his deadly winds. Thirst is yet another of the winter spirits who is feared during Christmas time, and reminded people that they were always at the mercy of the elements. Leave him alone, and he'll likely do the same. Interfere with him in any way, and it could cost you your life.
See, that little story right there is just proof that unicorns and goblins do get along. Just saying, for anybody out there listening.
Straggle, Austria and Germany. Straggle is a German version of the Italian word strega, or witch, and she is said to sometimes accompany Thirst on his nightly hunts. If Thirst is bad, Straggle is much worse. She is said to be hideous and repulsive to look at, and not someone you would want to meet, much less cross. She goes out on Ember Night, the Wednesday before Christmas, and, like Frau Perchta, see page 16, she is obsessed with finding out if children and young women have finished all of their spinning. And if they haven't, well, they are in for a potentially dreadful fate. Straggle has a taste for human flesh, you see, and will be only too happy to snatch up misbehaving children and gobble them up. So kids had better have done all of their chores and finished their spinning work, or else. It's not quite clear why she would accompany Thirst on a hunt, when her main concern was order in the home. But some traditions say that they are married. We could be looking at a surviving legend about Woden, the one-eyed god. Many of these winter figures might have originated from legends of this ancient and revered figure, known as Odin in Scandinavia. Indeed, Thirst's one-eyed dog, could well be a remnant of an older belief that changed quite a bit over the centuries, but never fully disappeared, even if it was only remembered in folk tales and legends. Straggle's and other Frau's obsession with spinning could be a reference to the work of the old goddess Frigg, Woden's wife and goddess of hearth and home. Though in early pagan belief there was nothing hideous or evil about her, over time, and with creeping Christianization, she might well have been transformed into a terrible old hag, and found a new life in the form of the various Christmas witches and female spirits that haunt the living with the threat of a gruesome death. At the very least, she was one of many supernatural beings whose presence could make children behave, not just at Christmas, but throughout the whole year. And yet, in some cases, Straggle might be kind and generous, especially if the children had done all of their work and spun all of their spinning. So we see the familiar pattern that shows up so often in these creepy holiday folktales. Treats and presents for the good, and punishment for the bad, which also plays out in modern celebrations, even if only in fun.
Right, Wonder? I was thinking the same thing, that all these stories were created to get children to behave. That's exactly what it was. And then you have shows like The Little Rascals, where if they don't behave, they get sent back to they get returned and sent back to the orphanage and are sent out to a new family. I'm telling you, I was listening to some stuff today while I was doing errands and cleaning and whatnot, and telling you, The Little Rascals is definitely something to look into, and ties to the Shriners and there's another group. I can't think of what it's called, but that's for another day. Let's continue on with the Christmas stories. No, not the actors, but in the TV show, if you pay attention, there are, like, Alfalfa. He has, like, 3 different families, people that he calls mom. And Froggy is another one. I can't think of who else. But there's a bunch. We'll get into that one night. We'll listen to what I was listening to. It's very interesting. But I also want to do a little research on some of the stuff that he points out, because there's a lot of stuff that he points out, but he doesn't really get into it, and it's a really long episode. So maybe he gets into it towards the end. I don't know. But anyways, we're getting off subject, people. Exactly, Wanda. For centuries, people have been using these stories to control kids, to make them do their chores, be little slaves for Christmas presents. And, like, they scare them to death. Witches are gonna come and get you and eat you, and oh my God. Like, wow. Okay, so back to where we were.
Belschnickel. Germany, France, Switzerland, and Pennsylvania Dutch country. Belschnickel has a bit of an attitude, to be sure. Stories about this Christmas curmudgeon originated in southwest Germany, especially in the area along the Rhine River. Like many of these mysterious holiday horrors, he is a companion to St. Nicholas. But in Belschnickel's case, he travels alone. His name refers to the fur he wears, bells, and to his connection to Nicholas, nickel. He also wears rags and sometimes women's clothing, and occasionally deer antlers on his head. Sometimes he is called the Christmas woman, which makes for an interesting exercise in cross-dressing, a tradition that has long associations with the chaotic celebrations of the season in various countries. Some traditions also say that he wears a mask with a rather grotesque long tongue, which clearly connects him to Krampus. Belschnickel travels on his own, but with much the same intention as other companions of St.
Wait a minute. Sorry, I have to pause right here. But did you just hear that? They were talking about cross-dressing, or that's not even the... But all that stuff, a long fucking time ago. So this shit that's going on today is not fucking new. People need to calm the fuck down and leave it alone. Mind your own goddamn business. Sorry, that was my little Christmas Eve rant. Back to the story.
Nicholas. He shows up a week or two before Christmas and comes to reward the good children and punish the bad. But he does it in his own special way. In his pockets, he has candy, nuts, and cakes. But he also carries a switch to administer beatings. Who will get what? That remains to be seen. When Belschnickel arrives, usually after dark, he will rap on the door or a window with his switch. When a child answers, Belschnickel will either ask them a question or demand that they sing a song for him. If he likes what he hears, he will toss treats to them. But if they try to catch these goodies too quickly or too greedily, they might still get a swat with his birch. He might ask children what good deeds they've done in the past year. Again, if they can't remember, or their deeds aren't especially impressive, they might get another swat. He's a rather grumpy fellow who doesn't need much of an excuse to administer punishments. He served as a reminder to all children that they still had a little time to be good before the big day, i.e. Christmas. Getting swatted was a warning to amend their ways. The Belschnickel tale is one of those legends that was for many years enacted as part of the holiday celebrations in Germany. Men dressed up as Belschnickel would travel from house to house in their villages and offer treats to the children, and perhaps give them a playful swat with a soft birch. Indeed, it was so popular that it was brought to America by German immigrants in the 19th century. In these communities, Belschnickel was much more important than Santa Claus, even if he had a similar function. In Pennsylvania, he was known as Pelschnickel. In Maryland, he was called Belschnickel. The tradition of him visiting houses during the holidays continued until the end of the 19th century, when it began to die out in favor of more typical American-style celebrations. Happily, in recent years there have been attempts among folklorists and enthusiasts of old traditions to revive this one, so it might yet make a welcome return. German cultural societies in Pennsylvania and elsewhere are including Belschnickel in their holiday celebrations, proof that the crotchety Christmas woman will live again for a new generation.
The crotchety Christmas woman. What the hell? I don't know, Cat Guy, if there is a dark version of Hansel and Gretel. But if you can find it, I will play it. If you can find a audiobook of it, that would be great. Because then we don't have to worry about commercials or anything. Oh, there is one Maven? Oh, Maven will put it in the cave. The name of it, and I'll find it. And the mainstream version is pretty dark as well. The mainstream version is pretty dark as it is. Oh, well, yeah. If I remember correctly, the stepmom gets her noggin separated from the rest of her. Oh. Yes, we're talking about a story. Hansel and Gretel? Is that happens in Hansel and Gretel? Really? Maybe I don't know the version of Hansel and Gretel. The real version or whatever. That's your favorite one, Cat Guy? Yeah. The censorship is a little wild. And I also have things blocked of words you can't say. But I don't think you would try and say the words that I have blocked. So, that's for everybody else out there that wants to say some dumb shit. You can't say it. So we got, I really don't think I'm going to stay live that long. Because I still have presents and stuff I have to wrap. So, should we listen to maybe a couple more? I don't even know what chapter we're on. Oh, wow. We actually have quite a few left. Well, Beard, it's in part of the forest you aren't allowed. So you can't even peek if you wanted to. 'Cause the wolves won't let you in. See, you may have layers to the cave, but I have a whole forest that's mine. And you're only allowed certain areas. Thank you so much, Wonder, for stopping by. Have a wonderful Merry Christmas. And maybe if I have time tomorrow, we'll come back on and we'll do a couple more of these. But I'm not promising anything. It's Christmas, and I know everybody has Christmas stuff they have to do. So, probably not. Unless it's like really late. So if you're just joining us, please don't forget to hit the thumbs up on your way out this evening. I want to thank everyone for stopping by. And I want to wish everyone a very Merry Christmas. And I hope Santa brings you everything you want. We got 2 more minutes. And then I hit the hour mark. So, peace and love to all that matter. Be kind. It's free. And not just during the holidays, but all year. And be honest, because real people find the real truth. And it's nice to see a lot of it finally coming out. So, have a wonderful evening, everyone. Merry Christmas!